No, fine, thanks. Bill, you mind me video?
No, that's all right.
Thanks.
For your own personal use, I
Yes.
presume.
Yep.
Oh,
Don't ask Mom first.
Well, you know, everybody has their own way of approaching the banjo and the music we play on it, and I think there are a lot of different ways that are right to approach it. You know, people can get if the results are nice, if the music is good to listen to, then well, however means they got there is okay. It seems to me. A lot of people these days learn from tablature. I feel that the thing about the tablature is that it's telling you one way to do something, and it gives you the idea that if you don't do it that way, then it won't be right. And that's not true either. There's more than one right way to play something. There's lots of right ways. And I always think of the banjo as more of an improvised instrument anyway. The record always comes out with the same break, but the person that played that break on the record probably will do it a different way the next time, and I might not even remember how it went on the record. So there's a difference in that learning something from tablature and feeling confined to the tablature and have to play certain notes or else, and then the way that the guy on the record actually approaches it, where he's sort of winging it or improvising, and maybe a different take that day was a whole different break. And of course, the way it is with the tablature is it doesn't even get made until after the record. There's, okay, as long as you all. So, there's certainly a lot of tablature out there, and if I write some tablature stuff on the board, it's not really to give you a lot more tablature to have to feel like you had to learn or something. More like to demonstrate an idea. When you listen to a record, things you may not know what key something is in, or what in other words, what chords are actually being used to play. The music can still make sense to you by ear, and so what I'm going to try to do today is outline to me a kind of a structure that goes on in music, and in any key or any piece of music that you hear, some of this stuff is in there, and it's helped me to look into that side of it and realize things about the way music works in general, not about one specific tune or how you play this break or what that lick is in there. It's more like the overall thing about what's going on in thousands of tunes instead of just one particular tune. And I'll play some too, but I mean, I really feel like a lot of this is so important to me. I hope it could be important to you, and time is limited today, and so I'd like to get right into some of the deep water. From before we could even read or write, we heard music, and probably remember hearing Happy Birthday and other tunes when we were little. And we have the sound of what it means to be in a key or play in a scale. We have that built into our minds at a young age. And well, if I look at this as the central note of the banjo, not only its middle string, but the key that we're talking about. And this is the note, and this is a chord. There's got to be a scale that goes along with that. And I mean by that the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do kind of scale. And if we travel along one string, we'll find this magic spot in the middle of the string, the octave, where the harmonic is at the 12th fret. That means that everything repeats from there on up, second time. So our scale is in that space. And those are all the notes there are, but we don't use them all from a scale. And if you start looking around for them, no, that's not quite right. at everybody's ear. Okay, now, I'd like to write that down and show you what we can get out of it, but let me make our acquaintance of these things by ear first, and then later, does the numbers will mean something, other than look at numbers on a page and try to imagine what it sounds like. First thing, if you break that into 2 equal parts, you find that it lays out like that on the 3rd string and the 1st string. You can see that both the top and the bottom of the scale have the same shape to them. And if you're a mandolin player, you realize that those are the bottom 2 strings of the mandolin. And so you're familiar with playing of a scale like that on the mandolin. Now, if the scale is raw material and it's just a set of notes. It isn't music really. You have to transform it by bouncing around in those scales up and down, and also by playing something in a rhythmic way. Rhythm is a real important part of the musical thing, I think, especially in bluegrass and old time where dances was mainly the rhythmic foundation. So if I play that scale or start out playing it in a rhythmic way, let me just go up that far, do, re, mi, fa, sol, then out of there you can hear jumping out a chord. Because I'm playing with more emphasis on certain notes. And that chord comes leaping out of there. Kinds of runs. All the notes that are on the beat are the chords. So the guitar player is playing those notes in the chords on the beat, and I can play a melody. Moving around like that, and it will fit in great with those chords. Well, that seems pretty obvious. That you play a G chord and a G scale, and you get something that works in G. What's not so obvious is the way it works for all of the chords and all the sounds coming out of the scale. If I start on the do, re, mi, fa, sol, then I get that first chord built on the first note of the scale. Let's call that the 1 chord. If I start on re, you can call me Ray, then I take every other note from there, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and I have a whole other chord, A minor. Now the fingers are going to the same place because it's the same scale. So here's G, and here's A minor. You see, my fingers have never left my hand. They're still in the same frets there, G and A minor. Dancing on the other foot. You see, this foot says do, but I'm still using the re and the fa and the la in there, except they're on the offbeats. And when I make them the downbeats, then I'll hear that other chord. So right out of this position, I can get the G or the A minor, with depending on rhythmically, which foot I'm dancing on. Donna, come in. There's still a few chairs. That chord, A minor, is built on the 2nd note of the scale, re, or in this case an A. So it's an A minor. Now coming out of there, it's the 2 chord. The 2nd chord, most people would call it, the musician would call it the 2 chord. The 3 chord is built out of the 3rd note. I'm just going up and down in the same old G scale, which means my fingers are going to the same places. And I don't have to use melodic style. I can play this in a single string style. It's not the technique involved, it's the notes you're hearing. that we're talking about here. And if I start on that third note, Mi, that's Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, and it gives me the 3 chord. So I'm going to find a family of chords coming out of the scale. A chord for every note in there. And so for the first chord, the 2, hear them in there. Then the D, that D chord using the G scale. I'm just starting on Sol. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, and I go from Sol up to Sol in the G scale. Sol, La, Ti, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol. And when I take every other note of there, just like I was doing with the, there I get the 5 chord. Now for the 6th note, which is La, I just start on the La and go take every other note up from there. La, Ti, Do, Re, Mi. E minor chord, using the same old G scale. And the last chord has to start on the T, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, and it would go up and down from there by an octave. You hear that kind of, that's the 7th chord, or the 7th chord in the scale. So, also those chords, let me just look briefly at what happens when you use the rhythmic, what's called the rhythm method, to get one more note up there, past the 3 notes that we stopped at this time. We went to the, which is the 1, 3, and 5, the 1st, 3rd, and 5th notes from the scale, Do, Mi, Sol. We've got 4 strings here, so very often what happens is you make a duplicate of the 1st note to finish the chord. So there's Do, Mi, Sol, and so that family of chords in those 4 string positions. But in a way, I've always got 2 copies of the same note in those kind of chords. That's what you need mostly for bluegrass and old-time music, but in popular music or jazz, where there's more chord activity, more advanced chords, well, they make them the same way exactly. So in other words, if I start on the Do, Mi, Sol, and let the rhythm choose the next note, then I'm hearing that note on a strong beat. And that's the chord. Use chords that are seem more advanced to the ear, but they're made in the same way as our 3-note chords. Or I can go for, that's 4 notes in this one. Let's try for 5 notes. That's a major 9th chord. Then if here's the 2nd chord, A minor. Go for another note in there, 1, 3, 5, 7. It's an A minor 7. How about that 9th? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. easier kind of chords, but they're made in exactly the same way. You start up going up in the scale, and the rhythm will land on the notes you need, and you take 3 or 4 or 5 depending on how complicated you want that sound to be. We're here to get into bluegrass music, so I'm not going to follow that train of thought too heavily about those more advanced chords. But here's what I want to show you about this family of chords we got here on 3 string. Maybe some of you are interested in single string playing. Here's an idea that might help a lot. This is the kind of thing where I think I can give you an idea. If you understand the concept, then it will provide you with things to work on and study for a year, maybe more. And so try to dig what I'm getting at here and carry this home with you. It's not like a tablature or a lick, but it's a place where all kinds of licks and notes are to be found. It's a real simple idea. You take these chords, and I'll write them down if you want, but I think we found them by ear. We just took the scale, and then those chords are made starting at each note in its time and going up every other note. Do, mi, sol. And that's what you get. In the second chord, you must start on re, mi, fa, sol, la. Re, fa, la. And then we got mi, sol, ti. Try talking like that sometime. Shutting off every other word. Anyway, so we have this family of chords. Look how this works with single string. You take any 2 positions that are neighbors next to each other, like this position and this one. And then you use a note from each chord. You have the do, mi, sol in this one, and the re, fa, la in this one. So between the 2, you've got do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Half of the scale or better. I'm lifting the whole position here to demonstrate the idea, but you don't need to do it that way. Yourself. Okay, now the other thing is that's a G chord coming out of there, and I'm using these 2 positions, a G and an A minor. Well, I can also get that A minor sound. Same kind of thing. I was doing that up here before. Same thing exactly. Now here's the idea. Take this chord and the next one as its neighbor, and get single string stuff between those 2 positions. See how I'm using a note from each position. And I can make that sound like the A minor, or I can make that sound like the B minor. The same kind of position. Next 2 positions are this B minor and the C. So use these 2 positions for single string. There's the B minor sound. And here's the C sound. See how I can hold that B minor shape and then play the C, play a lick in C. So the next 2 positions are C and D. I have a, or I can make D sounds there too, same place. I don't play single string stuff very well. And then this next 2 positions, see the idea is here you take those series of chords and then you look for neighbors, any 2 chords that are next to each other. And then you get your single string work between getting a note out of one of the positions and a note out of the neighboring position. And here's one, that's the 5, and here's the 6. So between the neighbors 5 and 6, I can get, or I can get the other sound. is another question. I'm talking about the notes that are coming out, not the way you get them. And then between those, or between this and this, you get. And or this. So you can work up through all those chords. Then when you get feeling comfortable with that, what you do is you take all those chords and you make them on the inside string. So then you have a whole extra set of exercises to work with down here. See, then you work for. So this kind of learning, you got to figure out what it is you want to know, and then figure out a way to learn it, and then learn it, and then, I mean, it's a lot more responsibility than it is just to open a tab book and learn a new tune. But you should be getting a lot more stuff out that will work on hundreds of tunes. And okay, now I'm going to try to show you a way of using these positions here. I'm going to take I'm going to look at a couple of different rolls, and one, well, I'd like to start with it. The middle, index, middle, and thumb on the first string on the middle finger, then index, middle again, and then thumb. Notice that what we're getting is a steady rhythmic feeling out of the first string. Take those chords we had, and I don't need the third string note, let me just play the top two strings. And I'll do 4 notes on each position. Trying everything I can think of, making loops and runs up and down. Now, once I'm comfortable with that idea of moving up and down through sounds that come in the scale, whatever, now I find that every one of those positions I'm in has neighbors up and down. In this position here, it has one neighbor down and one neighbor up. So next I'm going to go through this thing, instead of going right away to the next place, I'm going to borrow a note out of the next position up. I'm just trying all those combinations. Maybe I can borrow one out of the next note out of the next position down. Notes up and down. Just trying all those things. I'm going to move the index finger in now to the third string instead of. And there I'll play it third string, and now I need to look for a new pair of two notes. I like the sounds of those. They're just take those full positions, and it's the third and first string out of there. So I've got, and you can hear the scale after. Now I'll try the next note down, grandfather's clock in there. So, in a way, if you try all the possibilities, then you're going to run into ideas and tunes that people have already played. Or if you're not, you're writing your own tunes. In a way, this is kind of using a roll-oriented approach where I can get this roll going and get it on automatic pilot and then sort of improvise by moving through sounds on the neck. And I think that's fine. Let me show you another roll. Maybe you're familiar with it already. If I could write little numbers down to the right of each one of these, maybe this is an E. If you're taking notes, you might want to do this. If I write a little number down there, it just means the string I'd be playing on. So that's the first string and the second, although sometimes we're using this on the third string, remember, second or third. And then middle on the first again, thumb on the fifth, and the same to that part. Well, this, maybe you recognize already, is the Foggy Mountain Breakdown lick. There, I'm playing index on the second string, middle finger on the first, and then the thumb comes down to the second string, middle on the first again. Now the thumb plays at the fifth, on the fifth string, then I've got the second, first, and fifth again. If these little numbers make sense as to what string I'm actually playing with those fingers. So got index, middle, then thumb, middle, and then the last four notes, thumb, index, middle, thumb. Most people that learn that, well, they want to go, and that's fine too, but that may be all they ever get out of that lick. What I'm saying is you take that and combine it with these positions up the neck, and we'll have this kind of thing. Here's the Foggy Mountain Breakdown feeling in the right hand. Now I was doing all 8 notes, the whole lick through at one hand position. But I don't have to stay there all that time. You can move see, I'm moving around through those chord sounds. Let me try borrowing notes out of the next highest position. Or the next lowest position. And so then it's really to me, I get a lot of fun or just loosening up with this kind of thing and going up and down through sounds. Not playing a particular tune, just hearing sounds and imagining how they could be useful in some of the tunes that I might have to play. seeing if I stumble onto a tune by accident. If I do, I might just stop the practicing on that stuff for a while and play that tune, or get into one tune and try to apply the stuff that led me to that tune. But I think it's important to try to work on some stuff that works in music in general, and it isn't just working on one tune and one corner of one tune. Try to get a picture of music in a bigger sense, or learn things. Just like, I mean, you use those in hundreds of tunes. Well, there's other musical ideas that work in all those hundreds of tunes too. Is this something you think is interesting to you? Is this what you wanted or expected, or? Okay, I mean, I don't want to be disappointing anybody either. You know.
Well, how would you apply that then to a tune? How would you build a break around something like that?
Well, okay, that's a real good question. I think you would have to say that there's different ways to approach a break. I mean, the melody, if it's a song with words, then the words and melody are important to the uniqueness of that thing. And so if it's a vocal, then I try to play through using, voicing the melody. But the melody, 99% of the time, is coming out of that scale. So if I'm familiar with how to move in that scale, then I'll be able to follow melodies even that I haven't heard a whole lot before. And so that's the first step in working with new material, or even old familiar stuff, or stuff that I have in my head and I'm trying to find a way to get it out to play. I have to sort of hear it inside a key setting, a scale, and then sort of figure out where I need to start in that scale to move up and down through the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti to make it sound right. In other words, some songs start on the key note itself, the G in this case. I'm not a singer, but there's a cabin in the pines and in the Caroline. I got a big voice after last night, and that's the cabin in the pine. There's that note, but that begins on a different note, or Goodbye Old Pal begins on that note. Well, those are the three notes of the main chord of that scale, and so if you have an idea of what note a song will start on, then you move up and down the scale, you find the melody. And if you're moving along the neck like this, instead of moving across inside a chord, you can go and get a melody that way. You can get the same melody by moving along the neck. And I think this idea encourages more of an acquaintance with the neck along its length. Also, when you have you're moving around in the scale like that. Now, if you want to go to another key, let's suppose you want to play in D. All you have to do is find out where that pattern is on the neck, and changes. So if you're not playing melody, then you play the chord changes. That's so generally in a jazz format, people play the melody first and real close to it. That's called a head, and then afterwards they go out on a limb somewhere. Well, I've heard a lot of bluegrassers that do that too. Some even go out on a limb first. But that's okay. I'm just saying this is how it pays off for me. it can't help you if you don't try. I know that. And even if you never used it, your hand would be familiar with all these places. You'd have all that repetition and practice of those right-hand patterns. You'd find which patterns, there's a number of others that I like to look at too, which patterns feel easy and that come and flowing along, and the ones that aren't so easy, well, those are the ones you have to practice. But you find them by finding out what where the weak spots are, you know. That's how you practice in general, just like when you're practicing a particular tune. You practice the hard parts and try to get it all up to feeling relaxed at the right tempo. Anyway, let me show you quickly a couple other ideas, and maybe then I'll get some more stuff on the board, or we can talk about some questions. I want to go back to that scale again. There's two places in that scale where there are half tones, between the mi and fa, and between the ti and do. When we're playing in the key of G, tell me somebody, what are the chords that I need most all the time?
C and D.
That's right, a C and a D. Usually when we say D, we mean D7th, because D itself is a stable chord. It doesn't necessarily go anywhere, but as soon as I make it a D7, then it wants to change. It wants to resolve. Well, it's because of two certain notes in it, in that D7th chord. And where's the D7th coming from? Tell me where a D...
The tone of the scale.
That's right, of the G scale. All the notes in that D7th chord are in the G scale. I don't have to go to some other scale to find a D7th. Take the regular G scale, and I start on the 5th note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the sol. Sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol. That's the whole scale starting from sol. Take every other note of that. Sol, ti, re, fa. Sol, ti, re, fa. And I have my D7. So it means if I have a D7th chord coming along, I use a G scale and I run around in loops in it. Larry McNeely's making me nervous. So that's where the D7th chord is living, is in the G scale, in the key of G. And here's a little trick. If you watch what goes on the fingerboard here, you'll know more D7th chords than anyone else who didn't get in there.
Is that those two notes?
Yeah, the notes we're talking about are the fa and the ti.
The front tone?
Yes, it is. Now those two notes are in the D7th chord, and they're the two that move when you go back to G. And they move across their half tones. So there's your D7th to G right there. Okay, now there's a map of these that goes all the way up the fingerboard, and wherever you got two of those notes, you've got a D7th chord happening. Here, check out this. The notes are this fa, which is a C note, and the T, which is F sharp. There's the D7th chord. Now, whatever my note on the first string is, it's also on the 4th. So here, I'll take that T, and the next fa, and I got a D7th here. So now from here, I went from here and straight across to this. Now I'm going to take that fa and this T up here. Notice I didn't have a space between my fingers here, but I do up here. And a D7's right there. Now I'll keep that T and take the next fa up here. So I find that diagonal line across the neck. Everyone D7. When I get to here, I can go straight across and do it again. Get up to here and back to straight across and do it again. that were on the 1st and 3rd string across like that, or the 2nd to 4th string. So everywhere you are near one of those 2 notes, if you want a D7th lick, you take those 2, you take the D string, which we always have one open usually, and then a note that works nearby, like this A here. Now if you're up here, you might not want, you can use that A up here, but then you don't have a D. You might want this E here. All those D7s all over the place, and there are licks that haven't been found yet, and that's where they'll be, is where those notes are around, because the notes that are important to that chord motion, that resolution. When you do that, those 2 notes resolve across their half tones. Okay, now here's the second part of the idea. Once you have moved those notes, you don't need them anymore, so you just take them completely out of the scale. There's the whole scale with them, and what happens when we leave them out? We got do, re, mi, sol, la. I'm leaving out the fa and the ti. And what I get is that pentatonic scale. When you leave this out of the major scale, you get 5 notes. Notes made out of this short pentatonic type scale. Oops, that note isn't in there anymore, is it? So that. Well, how about it? Another pentatonic. All this, that kind of thing is pentatonic kind of notes, and I guess if you look around the world, you'll find this in Oriental music. You'll find it in jazz and in rock and roll guitar, blues, all those different musical forms. You will find, and different musical cultures around the world, you'll find the pentatonic scale more often than you will the full major scale that we often use. I've got, I spend a lot of time staring at the notes in music arranged in a particular order in a circular fashion called a circle of fifths. If you're familiar with what they look like. In fact, I have one here right on my sweatshirt, except it's too hot to wear it. It's kind of worn off by now. This is an old sweatshirt, but it might be able to read it, and it'll be a little simpler than just copying it out on the... There, it's sort of legible. Well, it's hard to tell what's over here. Let me write it out again. It's silly. There's too much other stuff on that one anyway.
Probably lunch.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of lunch, I didn't eat, but somebody was nice enough to get me one, but I don't want to really interrupt proceedings. We have such little time, and I'll hold out for a while.
Roadkill stew today.
Uh-huh. Mystery meat. Okay, what I do is draw a circle and then divide it up into quarters, 3, 6, 9, and 12 o'clock, and then divide each quarter into thirds to get something that resembles the phase of a clock. Because there's 12 different notes. That's the cue is the octave is at the 12th fret. There's only 12 different names for notes. Well, that's not quite true. We use sharps and flats to have different names for the same note. But I'm going to put C at the top of this. I didn't leave enough space to write things up here. And then I'm going to, they call it the circle of fifths. I'm just going to take the C scale and count up to 5 in it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol. I had to tune that 4th string down to C, of course. There's do, re, mi, fa, sol, and the sol turns out to have the letter name of G here. So now I'm going to start on G and count up from to do, re, mi, fa, sol. And I come to D. The next, here at 2 o'clock. And then I start at D and count up to sol. That's an A. And I keep on going like that. From A, I'll come up to E. And then I'll get to B. If I count the other way, or what note would I have to start on down here to get so that C would be the 5th note?
Oh, nothing says loving like
E and the whole tone to F sharp, and then here's your half tone again, cutting back across from F sharp to G. Now, if you read any particular scale you want, looking at that. Once you've got the scale, then you can find the notes in the chords by just pronouncing every other one. In other words, that first chord I had, that chord there must be starting at the first note of the scale, G. You skip A, which is the second note, G, B, C, D. The second chord starts on A, and it must be A, B, C, D, E. A, C, E. The third one would start on B, and it would be B, C, D, E, F sharp. That's the chords, that family of chords we're working up through. So this is B, D, and F sharp. And then you got C, D, E, F sharp, G as this chord. So you can name all those chords if you want to. And let's say this something that works for every key. But the banjo is special because it has a G string and a D string here, and those has 2 each of those notes. So that if I can concentrate on the keys that have those notes in them, then I'll be able to get more out of the banjo. Now, we've talked about the 2 notes that are in a D7th chord, and they are C and F sharp here, the Fa and T. C and F sharp, and they're on the half tones, remember? When they move, the F sharp's going to G, and the C is going down to B. And that's how this chord gets resolved. Now we said we can also take out those 2 notes, and what we have left are just these 5. G, D, A, E, and B. So I've got G and D on open strings. All I have to do is fret A, E, and B. A, E, and B, and now I have... That's that G pentatonic scale. For the tunes that I know that work in a pentatonic scale. Now here's the fun part to me. Well, I'm wrapping up pretty quick because they want to get in here and throw me out. I was just using these 5 notes, G, D, and I was fretting A, E, and B. And you hear that G pentatonic scale is coming out of there. if I take this B and raise it up by 1 fret, it comes to C. So now I'll have C, G, D, A, and E. That's a new key. All I got to do is just slide this one finger up here. So here's G. And I lift this finger up. That's all I did. So I got the 8th of January is on there. So that's C and G and D, my open strings, and then A and E. Now if I take that E and move it up 1 fret to F, I'll have F and C, G, D, and then A. So now all I do here is take that C and find the E in there, raise it up 1 fret. So I've got the key of F without the capo. Did you ever notice the way the inlays are in your banjo? If I just play the inlays, it's that exact scale. It's built right onto your banjo. If I go one more step, and that's all I can go, take this A and change it up a 1 fret, it'll become B flat. So now I'm B fretting B flat, F, and C, and using G and D as my open strings. That's B flat up here, and F and C, and that'll give me the key of B flat. So there's the 8th of January in 4 keys without the capo. Now it's not to be able to play the 8th of January in 4 keys, it's to show you that when you have a pentatonic tune that has 5 notes in its melody, and then you have a scale that has 5 notes, then they are ready to go together. If you can play that scale up and down, and all the notes in that scale are in the melody, and all the notes in that melody are in the scale, then go to it. You know, you've got everything you need to play that tune. And look at the way, just how close they are together, those 4 chord keys. Here's G, here's C, here's F, and here's B flat. Here's a trick too. If you're playing blues in G, notice how much I'm going to this 3rd fret? That's the B flat fret. So position up here and play, you know, here's Ralph Stanley's version of Thanks Mountain Backstep. Here's the B flat, remember? Okay, here's Thanks Mountain Backstep using the B flat as a source of those blues notes. Thompson did that one here, and that's built out of a B flat position up here and a B flat position down here. we got our feet wet today. I can't say we got into anything as deep as I'd like to, but I'm trying to show you a few things that have brought me something in return. I invest some time in and try to learn these things and struggle with them, and that struggle pays off when you get to be able to work around with some of these ideas. And there's still more stuff to find, as always will be, you know, and that's the pleasure of it to me. I like to just organize the search a little, and you know, putting the notes out in this way and realizing, well, I better use these strings that I got here because they're already open. I don't have to fret them. I don't work with them. I just pick it up. They're already there. So look for keys that have those notes in them and licks, and learn how to take advantage of the unique qualities of the banjo. And try that idea of moving the chords around up and down the neck instead of following a melody across. Although that's of course an option too. Or the best thing to do is learn to do it both ways and then take your choice. Remember, if you learn one way to do something, then you've always got that way to do it. But you learn 10 ways to do it, and then if you got a choice, you know, if you want to play like Earl, you can learn exactly the way Earl does something, and then you can play like Earl. You could also learn every single way to play, and then you could decide to play like Earl, and you could do that too. But you'd have the choice then, you see. And then you could play like Bela if you felt like it. So I would say learn more than you need and then decide what you want to use in a particular tune. And main thing is have some fun, and that has to show in the music too, because we want people to like this stuff and see us having a good time and want to join the party, you know. So to me, the best thing to music has to be fun. But to me, you know, I feel like having fun, and the reward is greater if I work up a little sweat along the way, you know. I mow my own lawn, and I also try to write my own tablature and set my own tasks, and sometimes I put it off until tomorrow, but I usually keep at it, and sooner or later I'll get there. So if you do the same, you'll be teaching me a lot of new licks you found, and I hope that happens. Well, that's about it for now. I've already gone a little over to their time, so...
Bill, aren't you supposed to be here too?
Yeah, I will, but of course Larry, who hasn't had an hour as I just have, I think if you're staying, I think it's only fair that he have his opportunity to show you his way of approaching the musical thing, as I've had a chance to show you mine. Yes.
It's funny, like, as soon as I'm
This event is part 2 of Dance Newgrass, I think, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yes. Part 2.
Part 2 only because it's a different hour. That's all. It's whatever you want it to be, I guess. It's your shot.
Are we want the people here for the prior hour?
Yes, there's several
Somewhere,
people.
somewhere.
So they want to kind of continue the way Bill was going? That'd be fine with me. Sure. I mean,
Let's play together.
we can, I'm the one that doesn't know any of the names of these things.
Oh, come on,
If
Larry.
Andy helps me, I hire him to follow me around. When I get in a hole, Andy's the most knowledgeable banjo player I've ever met, Bill. And he's turned me on to more things that I didn't know existed, you know. Which, you know, some of the things that a lot of banjo players don't, you know, like the Fred Bacons and Van Ness and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is he can play it, and I can't, see. I know when he can play it.
You met him about the same, I think we met Andy about the same time. When you were down in Tennessee, you were doing a whole bunch of... Bill County recorded a record.
Right.
I tracked down the Red Wing Records.
Right.
You got one of those?
Yes, sir. I still have it. Yes, sir.
There's two singles, 4 sides, I think.
Oh, I didn't know.
I heard Bill playing the Castle Performance Home there in 1965 on live radio, and I did a U-turn right there. I went turned right around the middle of the road. I went right back downtown to that radio station. That's where I met him. He was still playing on there when I got there. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, Bill.
You had to be there. getting into some of the sort of theoretical side of music, although I don't like to call it music theory because, in fact, actually it turns out that it's all true. It's not some theory, and you can believe it when you hear it. And you have a tendency to believe more in facts, actually, than in fiction or in something that may be theoretical. So I don't think it's anything that ought to scare anybody away. It's just, I mean, talking about the numbers or the letters, sure, I mean, they're only symbols for the sounds that we hear, and the sounds are much more important than anything else. But if we have to deal with the symbols, then it can help a little. But remember that most importantly, we were listeners before we were players, and we're still listeners and have to be listeners first of all to hear what everybody else is in the band or we're playing with, or hear what other people are doing on their banjos. And in a way, you see, this way of talking about music or writing it down is like the written form of English. And we learned to play probably, or we certainly learned to talk English before we learned how to read and write. And some people haven't even got around to learning how to read and write, but they can still speak just fine. And music is like that too. You can learn how to play without knowing about the musical grammar, about how to write it down or even how to read it. You can still play. It doesn't matter that as long as, the only reason somebody invented a way to write it down is so they could remember it or, have more information available or a way to exchange information. But just like with the spoken language, it's not, the most important thing is not how to read it or write it, it's actually doing it, playing it or speaking is more important than that. So in some ways, talking about music, sometimes it boils down into well, a job you'd have to do if you were writing a dictionary or you were trying to put a lot of information in one place. And then your job is more like a librarian than a musician. I think it's better to, to concentrate on the playing side of it, but let the written things help when they can. Most of all, depend on your ear, because that's what you take out on the stage or you take to a jam session to play with. And it's not a big book of tablature with, that you want to take along to a jam session. I don't know, I don't want to sort of repeat a lot of the things we were into in the first hour, but one thing I didn't exactly get to, but was leading in that direction, and maybe Larry could offer some ideas on this, is when you hear a song that on the radio or someone else, a group playing, if you don't know what key they're in, you still have a sense of what's going on in the music. And for example, if you, as we mentioned, I'm sure you're aware, if you pick up the banjo and play something in the key of G, you'll have to go for two other chords a whole lot of the time, those being the C chord and the D7. Look where G is up here, and then where C and D are, they are just immediate neighbors on each side. So because of the symmetry of this whole thing, no matter what key you choose, if you want to play in the key of A, well then you better have a D chord and an E7 handy, because that's what you'll need. If you want to play in the key of F, well you'll need a B flat and a C7. Whatever key you're in on this circle, then the chords you'll need are the ones on each side of it. The capo does that for you automatically. You can put the capo on somewhere and pretend you're in G and use the positions that you're familiar with, but their names will be changed in exactly that same way. And so when you're playing, the most important thing is to be able to recognize what those chords are when they come up. Start with songs that have 3 chords, G, C, and D, and stick to major songs starting out to develop your ear. and you can hear a certain number of beats go by, and then the chord's going to change. And usually it's going to, if you're playing a G, then you've got two that it might go to. It might go to a C or it might go to a D. You've got to develop your ear and try this out and work at it and build your reflexes so you hear a new song you never heard before and you can be jumping to the right chords. Now those chords that we talked about, G, C, and D, are actually just 3 of the 7 chords that come out of the scale. And there's one for every note of the scale. So we have this, the G scale is the 1 chord, the C is the 4, and the D is the 5. But there are other chords in there. There's the 2 chord, which is a minor because of the way it comes out of the scale. So is the 3 chord. Here's the 4 chord, which is major again. The 5, 6 is minor, and then 7. Well, let's not get into what they call that. It's actually a diminished triad, or if you have the 4-note voicing, it's a half diminished chord, which is also called a minor 7 flat 5. And then that's why I didn't want to get into that. And then back to home base. So in many songs, go through that type of chord change. There's a G and a C and a D, and some songs have this 2 chord, which is an A minor. Some songs have more chords than that. If you're in the key of G, then here's the D chord, which is the 5. Just beyond the D, and we're going to make our way back to home base, back to G in a counterclockwise way. There's an A, and so that's an A minor chord, which is the 2 chord, then a D, and then a G. Before that G is an E down here, so how about... A7, D7, and back home to G. So many songs go along in that way. Once you know where the home base is and what kind of song it is, you can look at your watch and know what the chords are going to be in that. Different songs may start in a different place. I need a chord that leads me to E. Hey, I'll use the B. And so on. So there's a beautiful song that was written by a harmonica player that to me it shows off the way the chords move like this in the best way. It's called Bluesette. I can't play it melody-wise, but I'd like to show you the chords. I'll try this in G. natural chord motion. What are those chords? Here's the G. Next chord I played was an F sharp, minor 7 flat 5, the 7 chord out of my scale. So it's the 7 at the 6 o'clock here on my circle, followed by a B, E minor, that's an A, there's my D, to G7, and then a C, C minor, there's an F, then a B flat, B flat minor, that's an E flat, and then there's an A flat, so that really that song went all the way around there.
We'll assume he had a chromatic harmonic.
Yeah, I believe he did. Sorry?
Something wins out my head, Ron.
Possibly.
To steal them off.
Yes, he's the one. Belgian. One of the contributions that Belgium has made to the musical life, of course, the saxophone was invented by a Belgian too, Joseph Sax. Some other, oh yeah, Mr. Bakel, no, what was his name? Bakker, I think, was the guy that invented Bakelite. Was a Belgian. Some songs come back home to the key they're starting it in the other direction. One of the tunes that I've had on my first album was recorded by one of the best known rock and roll bands of all time, the Rolling Stones. They do some bluegrass too, and I meant to say the best known bluegrass band of all time. And so on into the tune, and those chords. There's an F chord, followed by a C, and back to home base at G. So I was coming back to home through the other direction instead of my normal way. I was coming back. This can be a real help in, once you know a song, if you needed to transpose it, find out how it moves around on the circle and then just switch the whole pattern to a different place and it'll be in a different key. There's lots of other uses here. A jazz player could look in there and say, well, these two notes we're talking about, C and F sharp, that are all out D7 chord. Those two notes, C and F sharp, divide the circle symmetrically. So if they're in this chord D7th, then they must also be in this chord down here, A flat, 7th. So the jazz player would say, instead of D7th to G, I'll use an A flat 7th to G as what they call a flat 5 substitution for the dominant chord. You're going from an A minor, instead of going to D and back to G, from A minor you go to A flat 7th or A flat 9, and then back to G major 7. You could also say, well, a diminished chord would also have those same two notes in it. as well as E flat and A. So here's the two notes, C and F sharp. If I put an E flat and A in there, I get a diminished chord, but the same two notes in a D7, so I can use a diminished chord instead of the 5 chord. These aren't things that we usually do in bluegrass, mainly because we want to be able to play with people without making an arrangement out of it, making a, you know, a federal case out of some tune, you know, by putting in a lot of chords and having to whisper and exchange chord symbols and, you know, you just want to play the thing, right? So you don't go for all the complicated chords. It's when you're in a band and you can work together for a long enough time and then make an arrangement, work something up, or, you know, your band leader, you can write out parts out and say, boys, you learn these, or, you know, or not. So, I find that since every note that I need musically is on here, that it's like the periodic table of the elements for a chemist, you know, every compound and every piece of material or chemical formula has to be there, because every element is there. So every piece of music that ever has been written or ever will be, is the notes of it are right here. And if I bop around enough, just like those, you know, I like to say, well, Tony Triska asked me to write the liner notes to a record of his once, and I was trying to be funny, so I put in this thing that I remembered if, you know, if you had 100 monkeys or more, and you had 100 typewriters, and you sat them all down and let them go, that maybe sooner or later one of them would write some intelligent sentence there, or, you know, a little poem or something. Just by statistics would say the law of averages, sooner or later something like that would have to happen. And so I said, well, if you took the 100 monkeys and you gave them 100 banjos, then one of them would write a Tony Triska tune. And I just think of all the time Tony has saved us.
Nobody else has fun except Tony.
No, Tony had the last say as whether or not he put it on his album, and he did. But see, I'm looking at my job right now as like one of those monkeys. I got to try out all the possibilities. I got to try every shape, everything I can think of, and see if I can get something happening there. That's how you find new stuff, you know. And so sooner or later, if you keep on trying, you will find your own way of doing it, and something that other people aren't doing. So, you know, that's one of my thoughts about as I was trying to show you moving around up the neck. And moving through those positions, and it's not music yet, but it's closer than just the scale. So, you know, here's an idea too that comes off the circle that I think is a neat little approach to things. If we found that G scale in the melodic fashion, and just take it up to that high D, you would find these two positions here at the 4th and 5th fret, and up here at 8 and 9, 9 and 10, excuse me, that you need to play that G scale. Well, the note I'm holding down on the first string down here is an F sharp. If you remember, that's the only note that is not, that has a sharp on it in the G scale. So if we take that sharp off, then we have no sharps and no flats, so we must have the C scale. If I just take that note down one fret. So what I'm going to do before I do that is play the scale up there, and looking for those two positions. And next I'll try to make one of those waterfall kind of loops. So you can see notes passing down through that thing. Now what I do is take out the F sharp and make it F. Here's the C scale now. The top one is still close up here. I haven't moved it, but I just moved the bottom one down. Same rolls that I was using for G. The only thing is I was moving that finger down across that one fret. Now, if I do this again, I just took the F sharp off down here and I added F here. So now what's the next note down here is B. Why don't I take it out and put in B flat? Well, that's just the same as moving B down a fret. B is up here at the 9th fret. So I move this note down here. Next it's telling me move this one down here as well. When I do that, scale. So I come down the neck. We're using that waterfall most of the way. In the key of F. Same rolls as I was using for G. Now, the next thing is the note up is E here. So if I take it out and replace it with the next note up here, which is E flat. Same as moving that down one fret. Say that E is on the 2nd string, move it down there, and what have I got? I must have the next scale, which would be the B flat scale. Do you hear that B flat scale? Same two positions, except now this one here is evolved through 2 steps. The first string went down, the second string went down. Up here, only one evolution step. Okay, next thing, it says find the A, move it down to A flat. Well, that's up here in the 2nd string, the same thing I just did down here. If I do that, I'll now have the E flat scale. Start my waterfall. So see all those keys I get there. I get a G. Then I get C. Then I get F. Exactly the same rolls on all this stuff. It's all easy. You get the one roll and use it for everything. Excuse me. All the tricks out of the bag. And then, if I take that F scale, and I make one flat of here, it'll turn into B flat. And I take one note in there and flat it, that's the A. A flat. And I end up with E flat. So there's G, C, F, B flat, and E flat scales, all without the capo. So once you have one of those scales, you know what you got to do. Your homework's cut out for you. You know, just like we did the G scale. You got the G. So you got to go up there, step at a time, and find the chords. got your choice. You can do it or not do it, you know. But if you do it, then you'll run into some new ideas, some new places to play, some familiar ideas. You might recognize tunes that are in these other keys or licks you hear other people doing on their records, and plus your fingers get used to all those new places on the neck. So, you know, my feeling is just convince yourself that it can be fun, that the medicine doesn't taste too bad after all, and then take that medicine, you know, just keep on taking it. When you sit down to practice, spend 10-15 minutes warming up and playing what you used to play and what you know already. But then get into the hard stuff. You know, if you spend your whole time practicing just doing what you already know, then you haven't added anything to your own playing. You've got to remember how hard it was when you're getting started, how you could hardly get those fingers to get the rolls, and put that effort into it, just like you did back at the beginning. And you have to prepare to be frustrated and try and not get it the first dozen times. And then all of a sudden it starts crystallizing out, and you feel great about it. And then you can't relax there. You've got to look for another task, another job, you know, to stay busy. So that's my advice. Larry? Oh.
Yeah, do you think you could maybe play Sweet Georgia Brown together or something?
How's it go?
Larry, how would that go?
Yeah. I'll play backup on it.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were playing it before.
Improvise. We're just going to do it. It's like it changes Sweet Georgia Brown changes. One to the six.
Yeah, that would work.
It sounds like Salty Dog.
Yeah, you know, another tune that enters my mind that Flat and Scruggs used to play that has those same changes, but one of the few tunes that Earl plays in the key of F without the capo. It's changes of Salt Dog Blues. You could say, let me ride and so you can recognize the same. I started on a D chord, and then a G, and then a C, and back home to F. So that would be the same if I capoed that up, 2 frets, then I'd have a G, and then sort of start on E, and then go back to A and D and D. If you wanted to play the song in C, where would I start? E, G. Yes, I start on an A. If I want to play the Salty Dog Blues,
said, I just get all confused in those things.
Well,
Just
Play the
when
same
you,
song again, got it.
you know, we were talking about those chords using numbers. Larry said 1 and then 6, and if you continue on through those numbers, after 6, what number would I need?
3.
2. 6, 2, and then
5.
5, and back to 1. 6, 2, 5, 1. A lot of this is a common language to describe the way chords work, and the advantage of it is that no matter what key you're in, these numbers will work. If you start saying E7, A7, D7, G, then when you change keys, all those names of the chords have changed. But if you use the numbers, 6, 2, 5, 1, that means here's 1, here's 6, here's 2, here's 5, and then back to 1. So sometimes they are minor sounds like there's the, you hear those chords in there? That would be the 6, and then the 2, 5, and there was a tune that you probably weren't expecting to come out of those changes, but 26 miles across the bay, all those tunes, you know, they, I'm reaching back a little too far, sorry folks, but there's millions of tunes built on those set of changes. In fact, in jazz, they're known as the rhythm changes, 6, 2, 5, 1. There are some songs that go back up to the 3, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Has anybody seen my gal? That's a da-da-da-da-da. There's a B chord, that's a 3. Da-da-da-da-da. There's an E, that's a 6. Da-da-da-da. 2 is A. Back to D, 5. And then 1. So, just getting familiar with how the chords work, and every time you work with a tune and recognize a chord, you add it to your ear's ability to recognize. First off, you'll start recognizing the regular 3 chords that come along with a song, but then the 2 chord and the 6 chord will start to be obvious to you when they are used in a song, and the 3 and the 7s, well, they come along sometimes too, not as often, but those are, you build on things, you get in confidence in recognizing what the next chord's going to be, and you have to do that by trial and error. You got to fall off that bicycle a lot, and then after a while you stay on and you're making the right decisions about the chords coming. But you can't do it without trying. You can't get it without making all those mistakes. So, any questions to Larry?
Yeah.
This is like a theory thing, and I really can't explain theory.
We'll play for the folks. They want to hear it.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Sweet Georgia Brown?
I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
you want to do that? Is that an F?
see you again.
Little Keith, I love you. And McNeely. Oh, my little pumpkin. Hi, y'all. They're my favorite kind of folks. There was a time when Banjo pickers hated each other.
No, I can't remember that.
Bull hockey. I mean, excuse me. Yes, there was. There was. But now we like each other. That's called growing up. Remember how, you don't know, did you remember Bill Emerson?
Yeah, sure.
Bill Emerson hated me as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, we grew up around each other. Bill Emerson, he was a great banjo player, but he hated me because I was a girl picker. And I said, sis on you, and I wouldn't pick anyway. But he was great. He's great. I wonder how come he's not here.
I think they had an engagement with the Navy band.
Oh, well, he was great. I like to see old Bill. I ain't seen him in 100 years. Y'all pick something.
I just found the part I was looking for while you were playing your part, playing your licks, and I kept lousing up on the part. I just found it's like, well, that thing you were doing it. And I was
When you do that lick, you cross the index finger out or repeat the middle finger?
Take the first one up and first.
Yeah. Synchronized too. You're going to try to use the same roll. One that really nice roll. Here I go again.
That's what it's all about. I just don't know the. I can't speak it as well as you do at all. But I don't understand something. I enjoy it a lot.
So there's a nice bunch of rolls that use the right hand with the middle finger coming into the second string. Take the thumb, index, middle, and play on the inside 3 strings, and then the top 3 strings, and then the outside, inside again, and then the top again, and that gives you 12 notes, and you got to make up 4 notes to make the 2 measures. So you get this kind of Alan Shelton roll. I think the bounce and syncopation in there. The middle finger is coming in off the first string to the second string. That's the trick to some of those rolls. And here's one that I was getting at that. Make a G chord up here at the 8th, 9th, 10th fret, 7, 8, 9. And so you can reach over and play some other note with your index finger on the 5th string. And now play the top 3 strings, and then move over to the inside 2 and the 5th string. This kind of steel guitar roll. First 4 notes on the top 3 strings, and then start at the thumb on the 5th string for the last 4 notes. Then the top 3 strings, leading off the 1st. Then the 5th leading off the 5th, and those. Change your chord and move any chords you want around in there. You ever do that kind of roll? role, and I'm doing the same role but one chord position higher. And you kind of guarantee that the notes will be in harmony and the roles will have the same rhythmic feeling in them. So that's the kind of thing I like to look for in harmony playing. Can we do a harmony piece?
Yeah, one of those little field tunes we used to.
Do you do a twin to Roanoke?
I can't do it. I can do twin. I can do twin to Red Haired Boy. I think that's the only one I ever learned there. Old Joe Clark.
Oh, sure. Well,
The old, who came up with this? Who was it?
I think it was either Sonny or JD I heard do it for the first time.
For the first time?
Yeah.
It wasn't,
I don't think
Is
so.
it the first one I ever heard do it, ever? And I don't.
I believe it was Sonny or JD that.
Stuff's got to sort of be worked out, like you were talking earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Folks, we got the next bunch waiting at the bit here for the next workshop.
Okay. Rob, you have to tell them we still have 4 or 5 minutes at our time slot if we want it. Now, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure to be here, and even though the class period is over, if there's anything, if you catch me walking around out there, and unless I'm eating or something, please feel free to ask a question or write stuff out for you. Anything you want. We're here to help you out, and it doesn't stop at the classroom door as far as I'm concerned. So anytime, any place, just come on up and ask.
Where you might hit the
Just like all the time.
I'll be outside.
Yeah.
I still don't understand that theory.
something slow for us. Nobody.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody here has played anything slow. Play one of those beautiful slow things like If or something.
Like I don't have a face when I do that.
You should be so lucky.
Yeah, watch it. So this guy has.
We could tell from this terrible jokes.
I talk
We
about
got
it,
the worst
Judy.
ones. What do we do? The worst ones.
Pallet on the floor.
Pallet on the floor.
float on some of these.
That new one or
Testing, 1, 2, testing. The little needle on the tape recorder is now laying down. You're digging still that. Oh, somebody fixed the string for me here and did the old Bob Dylan trick on it. And left it hanging so it looked cool. I'm a cool dude.
You could do like Charlie Wall does, and when it breaks down, you just unwind it up here. And
Yeah, Charlie Waller winds the whole damn string up right from the tip. Winds the whole string up on there, and it's like this big wad around it. And each time it breaks down here at the saddle, so just takes it, runs it through a couple balls again, puts the pin back in it, uses it again. He uses one string 14 times. He always fixes them. He's the only one of the country gentlemen got enough money to retire. Still fixing strings. Maybe that's a guarantee.